Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive where we'll be focusing in on how music can really change lives
Yeah,
and in ways you might not expect.
absolutely.
So we've got two interviews that we're going to be pulling from today.
Yeah.
One is with Timothée Chalamet, the young
Yeah,
actor.
you probably know him from Dune and
Um, and then we're also going to be looking at an interview about Scarlett Rivera, who you may or may not know,
yeah.
but she was a violinist who rose to fame playing with Bob Dylan.
And she was a relative unknown before that.
Right.
That's what's really fascinating about these two stories is
No.
is that they were both
Yeah.
relative unknowns before they encountered Bob Dylan and then boom,
It's like it's like Bob Dylan, kind of like
a catalyst.
a catalyst. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with Scarlett Rivera.
Okay.
So, picture this. It's the 1970s. Scarlett Rivera arrives in New York City. She's classically trained violinist,
Right.
but she has this vision of blending her violin with contemporary music.
Yeah.
Something really unique for the time.
Really unique. And this is where the theme of these chance encounters really comes in.
Okay.
So the story goes, she's walking down the street in New York City with her violin when a car pulls up beside her and the driver rolls down the window and says, "Can you play that thing?"
Oh my God, wait, stop right there.
Yeah.
So is that Bob Dylan in the car?
It is Bob Dylan in the car.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he invites her to his loft for this impromptu jam session.
Wow.
But throughout their time playing together, he gives her no direction, no feedback,
Really?
just a deadpan expression.
I can only imagine, that would be so nerve-wracking to be playing for Bob Dylan
I
and just
will.
get nothing back.
Yeah. And she actually said later that she walked away not knowing if he even liked her playing at all.
Wow.
But then later that same day,
Oh,
Dylan invites her to see him perform at the Bottom Line Club, where he's playing with Muddy Waters.
okay, so I bet this is where things take a turn.
This is where things take a turn.
Okay.
So after a song with Muddy Waters, Dylan steps up to the mic and announces, "Now I want to bring up my violinist."
Wow.
Just like that.
Just like that.
She's thrust into this world of Bob Dylan.
So that was her in.
That was her in.
Yeah.
So that night at the Bottom Line led to her recording with him on his iconic Desire album.
Wow.
And even touring with his band and becoming the first female member of his band,
Oh, wow.
which was groundbreaking at the time, a female violinist in a rock band in the 1970s.
Yeah, that's
You know?
a very different look.
Very different.
So what was her style like?
Well, she kind of intentionally cultivated this air of mystery around herself.
Okay.
She often wore face paint and even carried a sword.
What?
Yeah, she carried a sword literally and symbolically as a way to kind of protect her individuality and maintain a sense of separation
How?
from the chaotic world of rock and roll. She called herself a lone wolf.
It makes you wonder if that kind of lone wolf mentality
Hmm.
was shaped in some way by her experience with Dylan.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he was,
He's notoriously
enigmatic
Yeah.
and kept people guessing.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's possible that rubbed off on her a little bit.
absolutely. Okay. Well, let's fast forward a few decades now, and we'll talk about Timothée Chalamet.
Oh, okay.
So he's not a musician, but he did play a folk singer in that Bob Dylan biopic.
Yeah. And in preparing for that role, he actually pre-recorded all the Dylan songs
Oh, wow.
that he was supposed to sing. But then when it came time to film, he decided to perform live on set.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He said it just felt more authentic and raw and more in line with Dylan's spirit.
That's pretty remarkable for a young actor to kind of like take that risk and just be like,
I know.
yeah, I'm going to do this live.
I know. It takes a lot of guts,
Yeah.
a lot of confidence to do that.
Do we know what Dylan thought of the film? Well, Dylan is famously private and rarely comments on things like that, so we don't know for sure.
Right.
But it's safe to say that Chalamet's portrayal really resonated with audiences and critics alike,
Yeah.
and that it captured that same rebellious energy and raw talent that Dylan embodied in his youth.
Right. And that's what's so interesting about these two stories.
Yeah.
Right. They were both relative unknowns before their encounters with Dylan.
Right.
And then something clicked,
Yeah.
and it seems like they were both transformed by his influence in some way. It's like, that line from The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah.
You've always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like maybe Dylan was like the wizard in a way,
He was the wizard.
helping them discover the power within themselves.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy.
And it speaks to the power of mentors or even just inspiring figures in our lives
Mhm.
to kind of awaken something in us that we might not even know is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got these two very different individuals,
Mhm.
a violinist and an actor,
Right.
both touched by Dylan's music
Yeah.
in these very different ways.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the key takeaways we can pull from their stories?
Well, for one, it really highlights how unpredictable these artistic journeys can be. You never know when a chance encounter might lead to a life-changing opportunity.
Yeah, and it's not just about talent, right?
But it's not just about talent.
It's about being open to those opportunities,
Absolutely.
taking risks, trusting your instincts.
Yeah.
And
And it also speaks to the enduring power of music to connect us and inspire us and to shape our lives
Yeah.
in ways we might never imagine.
it makes you think about all the hidden connections in our own lives.
Yeah.
Right. Have you ever had a chance encounter that changed your trajectory? We'd love to hear about it in the comments below.
Absolutely.
Um,
And stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve a little deeper into these stories.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to uncover.
Lots more to come.
Yeah.
The Long Island Sound is here to help you connect with local artists. Follow us on Instagram for the latest up-to-date podcast episodes and also to connect with your local artists and their upcoming shows.
You know, it's fascinating to think about how these two individuals, both touched by Dylan's music in such different ways,
Right.
represent a kind of lineage.
Yeah.
Like as if Dylan's influence is echoing through generations of artists.
Yeah, and it's like he planted a seed,
Yeah.
and they both, in their own way, helped that seed grow and blossom into something new
Yeah.
and exciting.
Yeah. And it's a reminder that artistic influence isn't always direct
Right.
or obvious.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's subtle, a shared energy or a way of looking at the world that gets passed down.
Right.
But let's look at a more concrete example with Scarlett Rivera. When
Okay.
she talked about bringing a lead violin
Right.
to contemporary music.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
What do you think she meant by that?
Yeah, what does that even mean?
I know, it's a fascinating concept. You see, traditionally, the violin has often been seen as a background instrument,
Right.
providing texture and melody, but rarely taking center stage.
Yeah, you think of like classical music or maybe folk music, but
Yeah,
not necessarily rock or pop.
exactly.
Yeah.
But Rivera had this vision of the violin as a dynamic, expressive instrument
Right.
that could hold its own alongside electric guitars and drums.
Right.
She wanted to break free from those traditional constraints
Yeah.
and push the boundaries of what the violin could do.
And she did. She really did. I mean, her playing on Desire
Oh,
is just so unique and captivating.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's this incredible blend of classical precision and raw, almost improvisational energy.
Yeah. It's that combination that
Yeah.
makes it so interesting.
Yes.
Do we know if Dylan encouraged her to kind of experiment with her sound or?
Well, there's no reports of explicit instructions from Dylan, but she
Yeah.
has spoken about how she felt a sense of freedom and
Oh.
encouragement to explore her own musical voice
Nah.
within the context of Dylan's band.
So it's like he provided a space for her to kind of blossom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think that that lone wolf persona that she cultivated,
Right.
was that a way of kind of protecting her artistic vision
Possibly.
within that space?
It's possible she talked about, being a lone wolf and intentionally keeping a distance from the other musicians.
Right.
It's as if she needed that space to maintain her own artistic integrity
Yeah.
and protect the purity of her musical vision.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like she saw her violin as an extension of herself.
Oh, yeah.
Her voice, and in a world that could easily drown out
Mm.
a more introspective personality.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the courage it takes for an artist, especially a young woman in a male-dominated industry,
Right?
to stay true to herself and her unique voice.
Well, speaking of staying true to oneself,
Yeah.
let's shift back over to Timothée Chalamet, and his experience playing a young Bob Dylan. You mentioned earlier that he decided to play the songs live on set
Yes.
rather than relying on pre-recorded tracks.
Yeah. That was a bold choice.
Yeah, why do you think he made that decision?
Well, remember, he was specifically playing a young Dylan,
Right.
a period known for raw energy and a rejection of convention.
Yeah.
Chalamet could have taken the safe route, but he chose authenticity.
Right.
He wanted to capture the rawness and the immediacy of Dylan's music.
Right.
And that meant performing live with all the vulnerability and potential for mistakes that comes with it.
Right. It's almost like he instinctively understood that to really capture the essence of Dylan's music,
Yeah.
he had to be fully present
Yes.
in the moment,
Yes.
and allow the emotions and the energy of the performance to kind of flow through him.
He was willing to put himself out there in a very vulnerable way.
Yeah, he could have lip-synced,
Exactly.
and no one would have known the difference.
Right.
But he didn't.
He didn't, and I think that speaks volumes
Yeah.
about his dedication to his craft and his respect for Dylan's music.
Exactly, and that's something that sets both Chalamet and Rivera apart.
Yes.
Right. They both seem to have this deep understanding
Yeah.
of the power of authenticity in art.
It's not about perfection.
Right.
It's not about polish.
It's about connecting with something real, something raw,
exactly
something that resonates
Yeah.
on a deeper level.
Yes, and it's interesting to think about how that might tie back to Dylan's influence.
Right.
He was never one to shy away from vulnerability
Right.
or rawness in his music.
Sure.
So maybe that's something he instilled in them consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
And what about Chalamet's physical transformation
Oh, yeah.
for the role?
Yeah.
The smoking, the way he carried himself.
Right.
He really embodied that kind of
Yeah.
rebellious, enigmatic spirit that Dylan was known for.
Well, he went beyond simply mimicking Dylan's mannerisms.
Yeah.
He tapped into the essence of what made Dylan so captivating.
Yeah.
The raw talent, the unwavering individuality,
Right.
the refusal to be confined by expectations.
And in doing so, he kind of revealed something about the nature of artistic inspiration.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about imitation.
Right.
It's about channeling the spirit
Exactly.
of your influences
Yeah.
and transforming that into something
Yeah.
new and personal.
It's about taking those raw materials and shaping them into something that reflects your own unique perspective and
Excellent.
artistic vision.
So we have these two stories,
Yeah.
seemingly unrelated, yet connected by this invisible thread of musical influence.
It's like Dylan's spirit is echoing through time,
Yeah.
inspiring new generations of artists to find their own voices
Right.
and push the boundaries of creative expression.
What a legacy.
What a legacy.
And it extends beyond Dylan himself.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's about the transformative power of music to connect us, to inspire us, to challenge us, and to remind us that even the most unexpected encounters can lead to extraordinary journeys of self-discovery.
It's a reminder that the world is full of possibilities.
Yes.
And sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a simple question.
Oh, I love that.
Can you play that thing?
I love that.
Yeah, it really is amazing to think about the ripple effect that these chance encounters can have.
Yeah.
And I mean, both Rivera and Chalamet, they didn't just absorb Dylan's influence passively, right?
Yeah.
They took that spark of inspiration and created something truly unique.
Absolutely.
Like Rivera didn't stop at just playing with Dylan.
Right.
She went on to embrace a wide range of musical genres.
Yeah, Celtic music, world music.
Even New Age?
Yeah, she even started singing,
Oh, wow.
which she said was a huge step for her after struggling to overcome a block for many years.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be pretty intimidating,
Oh, yeah.
especially if you've been focusing on an instrument your whole life.
Yeah, and it really speaks to her willingness to kind of explore and push her own boundaries, not be defined by any one style or label. And I think that's really the heart of artistic growth.
Yeah.
That constant evolution, the learning, the discovery of new ways to express yourself.
It's like she took that freedom and that spirit of improvisation that she experienced with Dylan and applied it to her whole career.
Exactly.
It wasn't just a one-time thing.
It wasn't just a one-time thing. And we see a similar spirit in Chalamet's career as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How so?
He hasn't shied away from diverse and challenging roles. From a love-struck teenager in Call Me By Your Name
Right.
to the intense Paul Atreides in Dune.
Yeah. He's not afraid to take on different characters.
Not at all.
It seems like he's constantly pushing his own boundaries as an actor.
Yeah.
Always looking for new ways to challenge himself and grow.
And not be put in a box.
Right.
Not play it safe. And I think that's a quality that we often find in artists who've been influenced by Dylan.
Okay.
This fearlessness, this willingness to break the mold and forge their own path.
And it's not about following in someone's footsteps exactly right.
Right.
It's about taking that inspiration and using it
Yeah, using it as fuel.
to fuel your own creative fire.
Exactly.
So if we had to sum up the common thread in both Rivera and Chalamet's journeys, what would it be? What's that core connection?
I think it's authenticity.
Okay.
They both, in their unique ways, resisted that pressure to conform,
Right.
to fit into these predefined boxes.
Right.
They embraced their individuality, their quirks, their unique perspectives,
Yeah.
and that's what makes their work so captivating.
It's that vulnerability, that willingness to kind of put themselves out there
Yeah.
and share their truth, even if it means being different or being misunderstood or facing criticism.
Absolutely. And, in a world that often values conformity and fitting in,
Right.
that courage is so inspiring. It's
Yeah.
a reminder that our differences are what make us interesting,
Right.
what make us
Will
human.
make us human.
Yeah, and that true artistic expression comes from embracing those differences rather than trying to erase them.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the power of sound and how a chance encounter can truly transform a life, what's the one message you want our listeners to take away from this?
Well, I think it's this. Music has the power to change lives. It can connect us across generations, inspire us to take risks, and empower us to be our most authentic selves.
Right.
And just as Bob Dylan's music influenced Scarlett Rivera and Timothée Chalamet, it holds that potential to touch your life, too.
Yeah, maybe you'll have your own Bob Dylan moment someday.
Uh-huh.
One that sets you on a path you never imagined.
Absolutely.
And when that moment comes, embrace it. Wholeheartedly follow your heart and let the music be your guide.
Beautiful.
Well, thanks for joining us for this spotlight on sound.
Yes, thank you.
Until next time.